Greetings, good people. Hola, mi gente. I hope we're all fine and well. A few days ago, I found out that November is National Adoption Month, also known as Adoption Awareness Month. I'm not sure if this is international, but at least here in the US, November is, among other things, because November is also Native American Heritage Month, and that's very meaningful to me. But November is National Adoption Month, also known as Adoption Awareness Month. And the 9th of November is National Adoption Day. Now, given that I've been an adoptive father for about 20 years, I'm not sure how this had escaped my notice or my awareness all this time. But that's what November is, and I'm super thrilled about it. I have multiple friends who are adoptive fathers, and definitely even in my and my wife, Granola, that's my wife and I. Her name is Georgianne, my name is Ryola, so together we are Granola. And definitely for Granola, we got incredible and amazing inspiration from Hervé and Janet Florent along our adoption journey. Support from a lot of people, definitely so many people. The North region, that's the region in the Nairobi Christian Church as it was called then, that where we were helping to lead. And there's also the Campus Beacon. That was a campus ministry that involved students from Kenyatta University, JKUAT, Egerton. Incredibly supportive, people on the church ministry staff. At the time we were in the church ministry. Within our families, we got amazing and incredible support. It was phenomenal. One of Georgianne's sisters was already an adoptive mother. And then also, within my family, my father took on as his children. He became a father and is just 100% a father to, some, children, amazing children that may not necessarily be biologically his, but they are his from the heart. And by extension, of course, they are my brothers and sisters. And so I just want to say to all adoptive families, whether you are an adoptive father, an adoptive mother, adoptive sibling, wherever you are, or maybe you are not an adoptive parent and don't have any adoptive siblings. Well, happy Adoption Month to you too. Thank you for your support. And I'm just really excited. I know that in Kenya, I may have shared this before, at least at the time when we adopted our son, what we found out was that adoption was very uncommon among African Kenyans. And most of the adoptions taking place at the time were international. If I have my facts correct, actually right now in Kenya, they put a hold on international adoptions. But that's a whole different story. I just want to say happy Adoption Month. National Adoption Month, Adoption Awareness Month. Either way, whichever way we call it, happy month. I know I'm saying this towards the end of the month, but nonetheless, I think this is just a thrilling topic. Recently, as you might have seen if you've been watching some of the videos on this channel, I got to interview a friend of mine, Gilbert Kimeng. Gilbert Kimeng is a Cameroonian gentleman married to a wonderful Nigerian lady, and he now lives in Nigeria. After his life course took him from Cameroon to Germany to Cote d'Ivoire, back to Cameroon and different places. And he has an amazing teaching ministry, and that's much of what I was interviewing him about. But I also got to speak to him about his journey as an adoptive father. He and his wife, Perita, their journey as adoptive parents, and that was thrilling. So you may have already seen that interview, but I just really appreciated him just coming on camera and talking about adoption, and not just adoption, as a topic, but his own personal journey. What I'd like to do right now is read from my book. This is my book, Go in the Strength You Have. And in it, at some point, actually on page 103, I talk about my adoption journey. And so I'd just like to read from this at this point. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Sunday afternoon, and I was at a party hosted by generous young women and men who had been part of the Campus Beacon ministry that Georgianne and I had led. My wife herself was not at the party because the women in the church full-time ministry were having a gathering at that hour. My merriment was interrupted by a phone call. It was my wife on the other end, and she wasn't alone. She was with Janet Florent, and she wanted us to accompany Janet and her husband Hervé the next day to a children's home in the Milimani section of Nairobi. I didn't want to go. I felt that I was being set up. The topic of adoption had come up several times after our 2 pregnancies had ended early. Georgianne was open to it and pretty excited about it, I thought. But I didn't think it was for me. I felt that I was already not very good at loving, and that there was no way I could adequately love a child that didn't biologically derive from me. I also felt that with the idea of visiting the children's home, Hervé, Janet, and Georgianne were colluding to set me up and dupe unsuspecting me into the unescapable presence of irresistibly cuddly little cuties. If that's what they had up their sleeves, it worked. But maybe they weren't using trickery and were simply asking me to be godly enough to give some time to children who needed and appreciated every attention, every loving touch, every kindness that they could get from visitors who came through the children's home. Hervé and Janet were leading the Nairobi church at that point and had already had a great impact on our lives. Their leadership of the church in Nairobi was encouraging and energizing. Their love and support to granola was immense. So, even though I was stubborn, I wasn't going to be so hard-headed as to insist on sitting solo in my apartment while they and Georgianne went to the children's home. How would I have explained doing that? So, I consented to being part of the visit. I said yes, because it was easier than saying no. A day or 2 after the visit, Georgianne brought up the question that I knew would eventually arise. She wanted to know if there was any child that I had felt drawn to at the children's home. Indeed, there had been. And Georgianne had been drawn to a child too. It turned out that we had been drawn to the same little boy, a young man who had yanked at Georgianne's big earrings and had pulled my delicate glasses off my face while looking so innocently into my eyes. And the day of the visit had been a day before his first birthday. Once that conversation took place, Georgianne was back at the home regularly, despite its great distance from where we lived, to see the little one and spend time with him. I didn't feel quite as compelled, and since I no longer had Hervé and Janet to contend with, I had fulfilled my agreement with them of visiting the children's home once. I didn't return to the home for a while. But once I did return to the home to see the little lad again, there was no turning back. Months later, with great support from our parents, siblings, and church family, we brought Paul home. We named him Michael, and also named him after my twin brother, who is called Rambo, which is a name of the Luo people of Kenya. My twin brother was my greatest hero growing up. Georgianne and I retained the name Paul in honor of his birth mother, who had named him so, and also because the Apostle Paul is a pretty admirable guy. Eva and Janet were a great inspiration along the process of adoption. Their biblical convictions about adoption and their personal example in this area made an immeasurable difference. No, they were not colluding or conniving, as I said earlier, in jest. I was just joking. They were gentle, reassuring, and loving. Little Paul warmed our home and won our hearts. Soon, I couldn't imagine our lives without him and wouldn't want it any other way. Because adoption wasn't very common in Kenya, we had a bunch of explaining to do. I had to explain to people the difference between adoption and abduction. No, we hadn't grabbed him, he had snatched our hearts. Later on, we ended up being in the newspaper, our family, also on TV, and then I was also on a morning talk show, all talking about adoption and our personal journey. I'm so thankful for our son Paul. I'm so thankful that I have had this opportunity to be an adoptive parent. And to be honest, it's not really a term I think of, oh, Paul's my adopted son. Now he is, it's just a fact. It's not anything to run away from. But we're just a family. That's what we are. He's my son. He's your Jan's son. We're parents and son and child. And so on the occasion of National Adoption Month, I just want once again to salute all my friends who I know personally who are adoptive parents. Thank you so much for your example. Thank you so much for the love that you showed in bringing your adoptive child into your family. And thank you for the siblings that they have. Because in many cases, for those friends of mine who I have, who have adopted a child, those children came into a family that had children. So they have siblings. So it's the whole family really that took in the child in many of the cases. And so regardless what the case is, regardless of the family setup, I just want to give a big salute to all of my friends personally who are adoptive parents. I want to give a big salute and a huge hug to all the adopted children themselves. Once again, thanks for your time, spending a few minutes here. And please do stay very, very well. Stay blessed. And I hope you have or are having a November with splendor to remember.